Welcome to our first time listeners to this first time ever podcast for Here to Their Wellness. We are super excited to be sharing with you a lot about our mission and what we do, and all the information on our business, and also how we're planning to help people and spread some light and some inspiration in this world. We are here with Megan Gallagher, who is the owner of Here to Their Wellness. She's a rock star. She's a superhero. She's unicorn proclaimed by me, but she may not think she is, but I think she is.
Thank you.
And we're here to give you a little introduction on Megan, on kind of her inspiration for Here to Their Wellness, and tell a little bit more about what we're doing. So, Megan, you ready to rock with this?
Yes.
We're gonna have a really great show. So really, just to start out, I'd love for you to tell everyone who's listening a little bit about what first made you want to pursue psychology.
So I it was eighth. This is gonna sound like the dumbest story. It was eighth grade, and I remember I had to do a project on the brain, and
Mm,
I thought it was amazing, and I remember thinking, oh, maybe I want to be a brain surgeon, and so that lasted for I don't know, maybe like a year, and then I realized how much I hate math and science. And that the actual brain itself wasn't what I was interested in, but I was interested in how the brain works. And so that's when I started getting more interested in psychology, sociology, and that waxed and waned over the years. And then I would say that probably my big introduction into psychology was after I overdosed when I was 16. And I was put into, well, right after the overdose, after I got out of the hospital, the ICU, because I was in the ICU, I think, for like 4 days. Um, they put me in a state facility because my father's insurance had run out, and it was a crappy facility. I mean, it was the place that is kind of like a dumping ground for kids that they didn't know what
mm,
to do with. It was inner city Chicago. I was a little white suburban girl. It was just it was a world, and I was still really fucked up from the overdose. So there was slight brain damage, slight, like, just a little bit, in a couple different places, but I was out of it for weeks because I
mhm,
took, if any of you read the book, I took over 60, over 70 sleeping pills. So anyway, so I was at this place, and it was the girls hated me. I was not happy. I was obviously in a really bad place. And then one day somebody says, "Oh, Megan, you're going to ISP," and ISP stands for the Illinois State Psychiatric Institute. And some of the girls found out that I was going, and they I remember, "You're not going to ISP. That's where all the bad kids go." And I was like, I don't know. This is what they told me. So apparently what had happened was my father, and I didn't know this, but my father, when he was in college, roomed with somebody who had become one of our state senators or representatives or something. And he made a call and said, "My daughter's in trouble. She's at this other facility." Its name was Henry Horner. He said, "She's at Henry Horner. They're going to discharge her. She can't come home because she's going to hurt herself." And so his friend called this other place, pulled some strings, and then they got me in. I was inpatient there for from January, I don't know, maybe like 23rd of 1990 till June of that year, till everybody was out of school. Um, and that's where I learned, well, obviously, what inpatient psych was. I learned what it means to work on a unit. I learned what it means to have adults really support and understand mental health and wellness. I remember the providers that I had, like, I, I remember our family social worker. I remember all these people helped me get through one of the hardest things that I've had to do. And I remember them saying things like, a lot of people who come here end up being therapists when they get out, like when they're grown up. And
wow.
I always thought I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to sit and listen to people tell me the same stuff over and over again, and not make any change. And so I kind of moved away from it. And when I first went to school, I was planning on studying industrial organizational psychology, so I would have a more corporate focus. But I was my professor of that class was scary, and so I didn't want to do it anymore. And then um, for my major, I did interdisciplinary studies. So I basically made up my own major, and I took three areas of study, wove them together, got it approved by three different advisors, in each of the areas, and then got it approved by the majors advisor. So I got to pick all my own classes. So I knew I was doing some sort of psychology. I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I had no intentions of private practice at all, zero. And then I graduated, worked stupid jobs for a while, and then I moved to Rhode Island and said, I don't want to work stupid jobs anymore. I want to do something that has more meaning and it feels right to me. And so I continued my master's program, which I had started when I lived in California. And then I still really wasn't sure if I wanted to do private practice, but then I ended up um, not liking working for agencies, as a lot of people who work for agencies might agree with. And then I just said, I think I want to do private practice.
Mm,
So then here I am.
and jumped into it.
Hmm.
It's so crazy. You know, much like you, I had a groundbreaking realization when I did the brain project that I made it out of jello and that jello can't hold in high heat. So we both had revelations during that project in school.
Oh my
Um,
God. That's
but
awesome.
I mean, and not to discredit the whole everything you just said. I think it's so amazing. It's so reflectant on your style and the work that the company does. Like to highlight what you said about not wanting to go and hear somebody tell you the same thing over and over again. You know, we hear the horror stories of people who go to it's the worst ever, right? When you hear somebody who goes to a bad therapist or not a bad therapist,
Yeah.
but somebody they don't mesh with. And they feel like they're just like a cookie cutter kind of therapist or somebody who's just giving them something that's not personal. And I think you and the company make things really personal in terms of here to their wellness and how they're applying this. So it's definitely interesting to see how that's transitioned for you over the years.
Yeah.
So just to kind of go into the company. So here to their wellness, we offer, I mean, so many things. We're doing services right now. We offer modules for self-help in terms of like everything focused from self-talk, goal setting. There's a lot of like kind of more personal things that people can set up for themselves. But from your perspective, like tell us a little bit about the company, what kind of things you'd highlight, what you really think like our whole mission's all about.
So I started off with just the counseling side, which is here to their counseling. And when I started it, I kind of knew that that wasn't probably going to be everything. I kind of knew that there was going to be more than that, but I needed a base.
Mm,
So I started slowly, and at the time when I started here to their counseling, I was also working for an agency that specialized in the treatment of sex offenders in the community. So I built my own schedule, so I had the opportunity to work at the private practice 1 or 2 days a week while I did my full-time job, my real job. And so I was able to transition really it was easy for me to transition into full-time private practice.
mm,
Um, After I had been doing it, so I'd been in practice for a while, and then I decided I was going to write a book, and well, another book I've written. I've been a writer my whole life, so and I have one book that is available for purchase already that I wrote about a decade ago. But I decided I wanted to write another book, and the purpose of the book was to take the top the top issues that I talk about all the time with my clients, because they're pretty consistent, and put them together in a way where people could get help and resources without actually having to come see a therapist if they chose not to. So I wrote this really, really robust book proposal. I had a book coach, and I decided, and so it was a really, really good experience having to write a book proposal, because it really helped me get my arms around what I was trying to accomplish. So as I moved after I finished the proposal and I started trying to sell it or get somebody to pick it up, I ended up speaking with some hybrid publisher guy, and I don't remember his name, but he was nice at first, and then when he found out that I was really, 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 really busy, he had no more interest in me anymore, and I didn't have a large enough fan base at the time for him to want to have anything to do with me, so he cut me loose. But he told me that when you sell a book, you lose all of the rights to the book, and the book becomes property of whoever of the publishing house. And I didn't like that idea because I didn't know what I wanted to do with all the information, but I knew I didn't want somebody else to own it.
mm,
Um, and this was confirmed when I reached out to the love language people, because I use their material a lot, and I wanted to get permission so that if it somewhere came out and someone said, "Oh my God, she's got love language stuff," they knew about it. They said absolutely use it. But when I sent the email out, I thought it was sending it to the writer, and it went right to the publishing house. And I was like, wow, that really is a thing. So anyway, so the no one picked up the book, and I was okay with that. And I decided that instead of writing a book, because I never wrote the book, because you don't write the book until somebody buys it.
Mm,
I decided I was going to take all of the chapters and turn them into online modules that could be used and would be, uh, and then kind of give people an opportunity to work with me remote, or work with people from my team remotely using the same kind of material. It just seemed like it would give me a bigger reach, which is what I wanted. I didn't want, I don't, how I perceive my mission is much bigger than just local, which isn't to say that the people that I work with now here in Rhode Island aren't just vastly important to me. That's not all what I'm saying, but I feel like there's more here than that. And I feel like with having online modules and offering coaching services and other things, that it gives the reach. It just is a bigger reach. And so I talked to my business attorney, and he said, well, we need to create a whole nother company. So that's how Here to Their Wellness was born. So we've got the counseling side, which is just one-on-one counseling, or couples counseling or whatnot. And then the Here to Their Wellness side, which is all of the online modules, the book, merchandising, all of that kind of stuff, coaching services.
mm,
So because I just felt like that helped me, give me the opportunity to get my arms around things in a different kind of way. And because it's a whole different animal than counseling, where you take insurance, we needed to do something different. We needed to have a whole separate company to keep that veil pretty tight. So
mhm. Yeah. And just real quick, the book that Megan is referencing that's published is called I'm That Girl, and we can link that below if anyone's interested. It is so good. It's raw, it's real, I got goosebumps reading it.
uh,
And it's just insight into Megan's life, challenges she's faced and how she's overcome them. And it is, I can't say enough how real it feels. It's a lot of things that I think a lot of readers can relate to. So we definitely can link
yeah,
that below. But I think that it's also interesting, I mean, especially after this past year, right? How prominent those modules could be from people
yes,
being remote and people being like their lives got turned upside down. I think about the people
yes,
that I talked to about the modules, and these are the root to fruit modules that you can see on our website. Um, you talk to people about those and they say, I don't have time for a therapy session, or I don't want to actually, go in to see somebody, something like that. And this is actually a good in between it's just a weekly email, where you or daily
mhm,
email where you're getting these updates, you're getting these reminders. Sometimes it's like, a light assignment. Sometimes it's like just inspiration to go out and kill it in your day. So I think it's really something that is very valid right now in the times that we're in. And it's
mhm,
interesting to kind of hear how the company has pivoted itself.
yeah.
So,
Well, and I think that even more so now because of COVID, the whole idea of doing things with online programming and stuff is just, it's so much more, there's just so much more validity to it. People don't
mm,
we don't need to worry about the efficacy any longer, because we know we have data that supports the efficacy of online services,
yeah.
telehealth. When this all started, none of us were really sure how this was all going to work. And I don't know any counselors or therapists who think that this didn't go better than we all thought. And the fact that
Mm,
Medicare is prepared to continue this indefinitely. So Medicare sets the stage for payment for other insurance companies. And so Medicare is saying, yep, we're good with this. We're going to keep doing telehealth, which means everybody else will likely follow suit, which again just reinforces the idea that telehealth is effective, and it gives people the opportunity. I mean, it just saves so much time.
yeah,
So, and
absolutely.
then I have my clients, I have tons of my clients who worked numerous modules. The self talk one was the first one that we did. And that I probably say the phrase self talk 400 times a day.
That's how important it is,
Yes.
and
I,
unfortunately, it's something so many people don't think about consciously.
it's because it's hard. It's hard. We
Yeah,
are so
so hard.
hardwired to those negative core beliefs that we have. They just run rampant. And even the most successful people in the world have days where they look at themselves and they go, am I really all that? And then they remember, oh no, I am Tom Brady. I've
Mhm.
won 600 Super Bowls. Um, but it's self-talk is where everything begins and ends.
Mhm.
If it just it I don't, there's no other way to explain it. It is where everything begins and ends.
Yeah. And if it's
So
not in your own head, it's in your face in the media, or it's in any kind of comparison you do of
yep,
yourself to others, it's
yes,
constant. And I think
constant.
I mean, I think it's been more prominent lately of like social media rising up, people looking at,
Yep,
things like Instagram, Facebook, getting like more images out there. But it's something that I think has always been pretty relevant in terms of just overall mental health. And like you said, is a good place to start for your foundation. So,
yeah,
and that's what Root
absolutely.
to Fruits is all about, building up the root so that you gain the fruit of your wellness. So,
Yes,
um, and here to their counseling, it started in 2015.
I think so. 2015. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so you guys are we're about to we have to have a party. We're about to come up on some milestones. So what was that first year like? I mean, you came out of college, you're, kind of going through and deciding your private practice, not private practice, and then you just full on jump in.
So when I all right, so I worked at a nonprofit, and then while I was finishing school, and then I had a friend who said, "Oh, the Providence Center," which anyone who's local to Rhode Island knows what the Providence Center is most likely. They're looking for somebody to do crisis intervention at Kent County Hospital, and I said, "All right, I could maybe do that." And so I went in and I interviewed, and the hiring manager liked me, and I thought it sounded really interesting, and I was really excited. And so that's literally where I really cut my teeth with assessing, because we would have 20 to 40 minutes to make a decision about what we were doing with somebody's life. Um,
Wow.
and it's I mean, these are people at their it's just so fascinating. It's so fascinating to me. And then the shift stunk. I worked 3 to 11, and I had, kids at home, and it was a really hard shift to do, and so I said I need to do something different. They didn't have a day shift for me, so I reached out to the organization that I worked at next, which was the agency that specialized in the treatment of sex offenders. And then like I said, I ran my own groups, and did individual. And so I had my own practice ish. They just did all the back end stuff for me, really, and got me my clients. So when I first started the practice, I think it was literally just on Thursdays. So
Mm,
I worked
wow.
for the agency every other day, came to my office on Thursdays. I had this my this the office space that I shared is with someone who's a very dear friend of mine, and it was just this tiny little office, no windows. It was a medical office, so there was a sink, and it was this weird little space, and it was perfect to start. And it just felt right, and I was really excited. And then over probably about a year, I started transitioning, and it wasn't super intentional to start, but I just started transitioning more clients, less group, more clients, less group. And then
Mm,
I got to the point where I said, okay, I think I'm ready to take the leap and stop having a paycheck from somebody else, which is a really, really scary thing to do, because that meant I lost all of my insurance. It meant that I was now responsible for every penny that came through my door, but I didn't want to keep working for the agency. So it probably took, like I said, about a year before I was really here full time. And by that time, my schedule was so built that it wasn't scary, really. I've been told I have the most consistent schedule that anyone's ever seen for a therapist, which I
that's
didn't
huge.
know. I didn't know that that was a thing. Like, this is just how I decided I wanted the practice to work. So this is how I created it.
Yeah.
When I got this space I'm in now, I remember the property guy says, "Oh, so do you work clinician hours?" And I said, "What's clinician hours?" And he said, "Like 11 to 7." I was like, "No, no, no, no." I said, "Why would I want to do that? That's no."
Especially when you're
So,
your own boss, you can make the
yeah,
hours.
yeah. So, I didn't really listen to anybody. I just said, "This is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to build it." And then I just sort of did it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's how a
Yeah.
lot of great things start. It kinda reminds me of, like, you think back to, like, your first apartment when it was, like, your space on your own and you're like maybe it was a kind of a shitty apartment or whatever, but you still felt like, "This is mine, like, this is it,"
Yes.
like, and you're like
Yes.
you just really have that feeling of, like, independence,
Of home.
of home and of, like, your independence and your ownership, of it,
Yes.
so that's kind of I think it's really cool to hear just how that's formated. Um,
Yeah. It's fun. I don't, I never am sad when I come to work, ever,
yeah. Oh, that's
ever.
so special. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that so many people should really, like, take a step
Yes.
back and look at in their jobs, like when they
Yeah.
think about not that people are constantly sad going into work, but how stressed are you when you wake up first thing in the morning thinking about, whatever it is that you're required at your job or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
Um,
I get to talk to people all day. It's awesome.
yeah,
I wouldn't trade it for anything.
and that's why
I
she's so
couldn't.
good at this podcast.
But I don't, I feel, I don't ever want anybody. I've had jobs where I've sick to my stomach every day.
Yeah,
I've had plenty of those jobs. I could tell you stories about them because some of
yeah,
them are pretty dramatic.
yeah.
And that's not, it's not fun. I want to have fun.
Mm,
And it's not like every client situation is good
of
by any
course.
stretch, but being there and being able to support people through some of the hardest things they're ever going to go through, it's such an honor to me that there's so many counselors to pick from. Oh my god. And so when somebody lands on my doorstep, I'm always just so thrilled and so honored and so
Yeah,
grateful.
yeah. So, I mean, we wanted to give an intro of the company, of you, of, kind of what people are going to get from listening to this podcast. So what do you hope people get from this podcast? What do you hope that people can walk away from our episodes weekly?
So it's going to maybe sound silly, but so some of you may know that I'm a stage 3 rectal cancer survivor, and one of the first things that
Woo!
I did, yeah, thank you. One of the first things that I did before I started Western treatment, meaning chemo, radiation, and surgery, was I worked with a shaman in California, and we used Native American medicines. And on one of my journeys, I was shown basically the message was mind the light. Um,
Mm,
and it just repeated over and over again, mind the light, mind the light, mind the light, mind the light. And every time I went back into journey subsequently after that, they wouldn't tell me anything. I got nothing else. Everything was just mind the light, mind the light, mind the light. And so I realized that's part of that is my purpose
mm,
here. I don't think I would have understood my purpose if I hadn't gone through cancer. I don't think that I would have been able to get past some of the things that the journey work that I did helped me get past. And all I want to do is show people that they can mind their own light, and really just about anything is possible if you use all of the tools that are available. The tools that we talk about in the Root to Fruit program. Um, this stuff, it really isn't rocket science. It's really not. But people don't believe in themselves and they don't think that they have the power to change. And we do.
mm.
Everybody does. Everybody does.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to raise the vibration.
The good vibrations.
Yeah.
That's what and I mean, that's what we hope, you get from this podcast, that if it's anything, it's that we actually are here genuinely believing in you and putting the effort in to hopefully improve some aspect of what you're going through or your life, or if it's through a joke or a laugh or something that really will put a smile on your face or something that will really inspire you and hit close to home. We hope that through this podcast, we're able to spread some more messages of light, and of hope and of inspiration. So we're going to be releasing these podcasts weekly. There will be some announcements on our social media, so we'll have all this linked to on the description below for our Instagram and Facebook. We'll definitely have some things open if you want to have some questions submitted for Megan. And then through the now, next couple episodes, we'll be diving a little bit more into the work that we're doing at Here to Their Wellness, a little bit more into Megan's journey, a little bit more into some of our team, and just some really, really interesting topics over the next couple weeks. So we hope that you keep listening, and we so appreciate the time that you've put into this so far, our little reader. We believe in you. We hope that you believe in us, um, and you believe in you most importantly. And we can't wait to see you next week. We hope to hear from you again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.